Hello everyone and welcome to this new tutorial. I'm Ludo and in this video I'm going to show you how to design a water tracker app in Nowa. In one of our latest updates we released a feature that really helps with design, which is themes. Now you can create color styles and text styles that you can connect to your widgets and your designs, so it's faster to modify multiple widgets across your designs and also to create a more consistent design in your app. Now I'm going to show you where you can apply a theme to your app and also how to modify it. To access the themes inside my project, I go to the Files panel and inside the Globals folder, I will find the themes file. When I click on it, I see two default themes that come with every project, a light theme and a dark theme. Now the light theme is set as default, but if I want to change it, I can go over the dark theme and click Set as Default. As you can see, the colors change because the first screen that appears when you create a new project is already connected to the color styles. If I want to modify either the colors or the typography inside the theme, I can click on it, and here you can find what you can modify. Soon we're going to release also themes for buttons and for fields, but for now I can show you, for example, that the color of the screen, since it's already connected to a style, which is the surface, if I go on it and click on edit, I can modify this color, and as you can see the changes are directly applied on the design. But to speed up the design process and also to take the most out of themes, you can, before you start designing your app, you can already set your theme, as I did. In the light theme, for example, if you go in the colors, I already selected the colors that I want to use in this design. So now I will set the light theme as the default again, and now all these colors are already applied to every widget that I had to my design, and it's going to be much faster and easier to complete my design. So now let's start by designing the first screen. In this first screen, we want to track the amount of water that the user is drinking in that day, and also we will add some buttons so the user can click to add water. So first of all, let's just start with the app bar, and I want to change the background color to the primary color that I saved previously in the themes. Also, I will select the text, and here I will change the text style to the title, and I already created this text style before starting, so now I can easily apply it in my design. Now I'm gonna open the widget picker and search for a progress indicator, and I'm gonna make it bigger. I'm going to change the value from the details panel, for example 0.8, and also I'll change the width of the stroke to make it a little bit wider, and I can change the color of the line, and I will also change the color of the background. Now I'm going to drag this widget inside the screen. And now I'm going to add a text widget. Here we're going to write just an amount of water, for example like 1000 milliliters. And also here we want to apply a text style. And I will also change the sizing to be auto, both for the width and the height. Now I'm going to select these two widgets that I just created, and I'm going to press Command G. And now they are grouped. Now I'm going to select the container tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to connect the color of the rectangle to the primary. And now I'm going to drag this component inside the screen. Now I'm going to right click on it and send it to the bottom. And now I'm going to select the container and the group that I created before, and I press again Command G to group them, and this time I'm going to change the layout to be in a row. I'm going to change the alignment to center. Now I'm going to select the main screen, and I'm going to change the layout of the screen to be a vertical, so a column. And now I select again the row that I created before with the widgets inside, and I change the sizing of the width to be expand, and I adjust the height a little bit. Now I'm going to design two cards with some text inside, one that shows the daily goal that the user set, and also the remaining amount of water that needs to be added to reach that goal. So let's start by clicking again on our text tool, and here we write your goal. And in the style of the text, we can click on it and we can select a different style. And also I'm gonna change the width and the height of this text to be auto. Now I'm gonna duplicate the text widget. And here I'm gonna write the amount of water. I want this text to be a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna pick a different text style. And now I'm going to select these two text widgets and I'm gonna press Command G to group them. And in the details panel, I'm gonna change the orientation to be a column. Now I'm gonna click on the Add Wrapper and I'm gonna select padding. I also want to change the width and the height to be both auto. And then I can adjust the value of the padding. I will add a little bit more on the sides. Now I want to add a background to this card, so I add another wrapper, but this time I select the material wrapper. Let's add some border radius in the corners. So I click on border, I remove the side, and now I add some border radius. For example, 14 or 16 maybe. Now I'm gonna duplicate this card, and this time I'm gonna change the text here to be remaining, and here we write a different amount of water. Now I select these two cards that I just created and I press Command G to group them, and I put them in a row. And then I add the padding wrapper to this row. So I select the row and I select the Add Wrapper widget and I select padding again. And also I want to go in the alignment of the row and center the elements. Now I'm going to take this row and drag it inside the screen. And I'm going to change the width to expand. Also I want to give it the same background color as the section that we created here, so I need to add another material wrapper, and in the color property I will change it to primary. I also want the color of the two cards to be not this bright, I want it to be similar to the primary color. So to do it, I will click on the color property of the material and I will select primary. And then to modify it, I can detach it by clicking on this X button next to it. And now I can modify the color. I also want to change the color of this text. So now it's connected to a text style, so to do it I need to detach it and I select a different color. Now I'm going to select this section that I designed before and I want to add some border radius only on these two corners. So I'm gonna go on the properties of the container and only add border radius to the top left and the top right. And now I want to create 4 buttons so the user can click and quickly add different amount of waters to the daily count. So let's start by adding a text widget, and let's connect the text style of the text widget label large, and let's modify the text content to be, for example, 100 millimeter. And also let's modify the sizing to be auto both for the width and the height. Now I'm going to open the widget picker and search for an image widget and change the size to be a little bit smaller. And now from the details panel in the URL property, I'm gonna paste the URL of an icon that I want to add here. Maybe I'll make the image a little bit smaller. And now I'm going to select both the image and the text and press Command G to group them and put these two items in a column. I'm going to change the spacing between the two items. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And now I'm going to change the height to be auto. Also, I'm going to add a padding wrapper and also a material wrapper. And I'm going to change the color of the material to be primary. And I'm going to change the border radius of the material. And I'm gonna add maybe 26. And I also want to add a little bit more padding on the top and the bottom. I also want to change the color of this text, so I'm going to select it and detach the text style and change the color. And I'm also going to change the size because I actually want it to be a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to create a component. Now I'm going to select this group that I just created, and from the top of the details panel I'm going to create a component. And I'm gonna call it add water button. And now I'm gonna copy and paste and add this button to the screen. And I'm also going to duplicate it 3 more times. I'm gonna select the first 2 copies and I'm gonna put them in the group and change the orientation of the group to be a row, and also change the width to be auto and also the height. And I'm gonna do the same steps also for the other 2 copies. So I'm gonna group them, put them in a row and change the sizing to be auto. Now I'm gonna add some padding to these 2 rows that I just created, so we can separate them a little bit. And I'm also going to change the sizing of the 2 rows to be expand, so they're going to fill the width of the screen. And I'm also going to change the alignment to the center. And I'm also going to add some spacing between the cards inside of them. I think I also want to add some more spacing on the top of this one, so I'm going to select it and add some more padding at the top. And now I select the main component that I left outside of the screen, and I want to keep modifying it a little bit. So I want to add some elevation, so it's going to add some shadows to create some depth in the design, but just a little bit. And also I want to go to these values and I want to create a parameter for the text property and also one for the URL of the image. So now I can select the copies that I created before and I can quickly change this property from the details panel. Now I'm going to create a button where the user can select a custom amount of water to add to their intake. So we open the widget picker and we select an icon widget. We change the size of the icon to be a little bit bigger. And also we change the icon to be a plus. Now I'm going to add some padding around this icon, so I'm gonna select add wrapper and select padding, and I'm gonna increase the value. And now I'm gonna add another wrapper, but this time I add a material wrapper. And I change the color of the material wrapper with one that I saved in my styles. I also want to change the border radius, so I go on the border property, I remove the side and add some border radius. Now I drag this button that I just created inside the screen. And I also want to add a little bit of elevation, so I go again in the material wrapper details panel. And now I want to add another button next to this button where the user can access their daily logs. Every time that they add some water throughout the day, they can see when they did it, so they can also delete them in case they made some mistakes. So let's open again the widget picker and let's search again for the icon. We make this icon also a little bit bigger, and this time we select a list icon and we change the color of the icon and we drag it inside the screen. Now I'm going to select the icon that we just added and the button that we created, and I'm going to press Command G to group them and change the orientation to be a row. I changed the width of the row to be expand and the alignment to be in the center. And I also change the spacing between these elements. I also want to change the order of them, so I can select the yellow button and with the arrows I can just change the order. But since I want this button to be centered, I will create an empty container with the same size of the icon. I will add it to the row that we just created. And I will bring the opacity of the color of this container to be 0. So now it's not visible, but the button is centered. Now let's select the screen, and from the details panel we add a navigation bar. Let's select the navigation bar and let's start by modifying the background color. Let's pick the primary color. And here from the items, let's add a third item. And from the arrows, we can reorganize these items. For example, in this case, I want the home screen to be in the middle. And we also modify the label to be home. For the first item here, we modify the label to be history. And we also modify the icon. Let's now select the third item and let's modify the icon to be settings. And let's also modify the label to be settings. Let's now modify the styles of the labels. From the unselected label, we pick a dark color. And for the selected label, we pick one of the colors that we saved. Let's also modify the active icons for each one of the elements, so we can also modify the colors of those. Now let's create a screen that user can go to when they want to see the logs of the day. So let's go on the screen tool and let's select an empty screen. Let's copy and paste the up bar. And let's change the title of the screen to be Daily Logs. And this screen is just going to show a list of the logs that have been added in that day. So now let's design the component that shows one of the logs, and then we'll put them in a list. Let's start by opening the widget picker and let's select the icon widget. Let's make the icon a little bit bigger. And let's select a water drop. And let's change the color. Now let's add a text widget. And let's connect it to a style. And here we write the amount of water that has been added. Let's change the sizing of this text to be auto, both for the width and the height. Now let's duplicate this text widget, and here we write the hours in which the log was added, and let's change the style. Now let's select these two text widgets and we press Command G to group them, and we put them in a column. Let's change the alignment of the column to be on the side, and also let's change the spacing, and also the sizing to be auto and auto. Now let's select the icon and the group that we just created, and we press Command G to group also these elements, and we put them in a row. And let's also put the spacing a little bit less. And let's change the sizing to be auto. Now let's open again the widget picker and let's select the icon widget. And this time we search for a delete icon. And we make it maybe a little bit smaller. And let's change the color. Now let's select everything and let's group again and put them in a row. And let's change the spacing to be between. Now let's add a padding wrapper and also a material wrapper. And let's change the color of the material wrapper and also the sizing. Now I want to add some border radius to this card. So I'm gonna go to the details panel of the material wrapper and go to border, remove the side and just add some border radius. I also want to add some shadow, so I go on the elevation property and add a little bit of shadow. Now I'm going to select the main screen and change the layout to the screen to be a column. And now I'm going to open the widget picker and search for a list widget. And I want to drag it inside the screen. And I want to change the width to be expand, so it's going to take the width of the screen and also do the same for the height. Now I will go to the details panel of the list view that we just added. And I go to the item builder property and I'm gonna select the widget that I just created. To find it easily, I can go to the components and I can find it here. Now it's gonna be added in the list. Also, I wanna add some spacing in between the elements inside the list. So I'm gonna go to the separator property and select fixed spacing. And I'm gonna pick a value that works. And now I also need to add some padding, so this card doesn't touch the edge of the screen. So I go on the padding property of the list view. And here I can adjust the value of the padding. Now I just noticed that this icon, it's maybe a little bit too small. So I can just go on the main component that I created before. And I can select the icon and increase the size. Now for the other two pages, there are the history and the settings. I'm not gonna create screens, but I'm gonna create components that we're gonna add later to the navigation bar. And you're gonna see how to do that in the second part of this video, where we're gonna explore how to complete this app with the logic. So now let's design the settings screen. And in the settings screen, we want to have options to set the daily goal of water and also how frequently to get reminders to drink water. And also let's add some information about the app. So let's start by designing the first two cards with these settings. So let's open the widget picker and select the icon widget. We change the color of the icon. And we select a target icon. Let's now add a text, and let's connect this text to a text style. And let's write daily target. Now let's change the width of this text to be auto. and we duplicate it, and we change the style to be label small. Let's change the height to be auto, and here we write the daily target. Now let's select the icon and the first text widget that we added, and we group them and we put them in a row. And let's put a lower amount for the spacing. And let's change the width of this row that we created to be auto. Now let's select this row and the text, and we also group this and we put them in a row, and let's change the spacing to be between. Now we add a padding wrapper and also a material wrapper. And we want to change the height to be auto. And from the details panel of the material wrapper, we change the color of the card. And also we add some border radius from the border property. And I will also add some elevation. Now let's duplicate this card that we just created. And let's change the first text to be reminders. And in the second text, we write every 2 hours. And we also select the icon widget, and let's change the icon with the notification icon. Now we select these 2 cards and we group them, and we go to the details panel of the group and we put them in a column. And now for the children on the column, we want to add a divider and also change the height of the column to be auto. To make it responsive, I want to select these 2 cards that we created and change the width to be expand. Now below the divider, I want to add some information about the app. So I'm gonna add another child to the column. And this time we pick an image. We go on the edit button next to the image. And we select the logo. And I will resize it, make it a bit smaller. Now I'm going to duplicate one of these 2 cards, and I'm gonna change the positioning to be below the logo. And here I'm gonna write try Nowa, and also our website. And I'm gonna substitute this icon widget with an image widget. And from the edit button here, I can upload another logo. Now I'm gonna duplicate this card again, and I'm just gonna change the text again. Now I'll duplicate again one of these 2 cards. Now I'm gonna duplicate again one of these 2 cards. I'm gonna bring it to the top, and I'm gonna select the first group and I'm gonna replace it with a text widget. And I'm gonna change the orientation of this row now to be a column, and also the alignment to be on the side. I'm gonna select the text widgets that I just added, and I modify the text style. And here I'm gonna change the text. Now that we finished the content that is going to be in the settings page, I can select the column with the settings, and I can go at the top of the details panel and create a component that I will call settings. Now for the history screen, we're gonna show for the users day by day if they reach their goal or not. So we're gonna design a card that has a progress bar that shows how close to the goal the user went day by day. Let's start by adding a text widget, and we add a date. Let's change the style of this text widget to be label small, and I change the width and the height to be auto. Now I'm going to duplicate this text, and I'm going to change the style of the text, and here I'm going to write an amount of water. Then I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm just going to add a slash symbol, and then I'm going to duplicate the text again, and here we're going to write the daily goal. Now we select these three last text widgets that we created, and we press Command G to group them and put them in a row. And we change the value of the spacing. Also, we change the width of this row that we created to be auto, and also the height to be auto. Now let's group together this row and the first text widgets that we added. So let's select and press Command G, and then change the alignment to be a column. And let's change the alignment to be on the side. Let's also change the spacing to be auto. Now let's open the widget picker and let's search for a progress indicator. This time we use a linear one. Let's change the value. And also we can resize it. We can make it a little bit taller, so it's a little bit more visible. And let's also change the radius. Now let's open the widget picker again and let's search for the icon widget. And let's change the icon to be a check. Let's make this icon a bit smaller. And let's also change the color. Now let's select the column with the text and the icon that we just added, and let's group them and put them in a row. And let's change the alignment to be on the top left and the spacing to be between. Now we want to select this row that we just created and the progress indicator, and we group them. Let's change the layout of this group to be a column and also fix the alignment. And we change the width of the first row to be expand. And also let's select the linear progress indicator, and let's also change the width to be expand. Now we're gonna select the column, and we're gonna add a padding wrapper and also a material wrapper. Let's change the color of the material wrapper, and also let's add again some border radius. And also some elevation. Now that we finished the design of this card, we can select it and create a component. Now we open the widget picker and we search for a list view widget. From the details panel, we want to go to the item builder and we pick a widget and we search for the component that we just created. As we did before, we also want to add a separator, and we pick a fixed spacing and we change the amount. And let's also add some padding to this list. Now, since this is the content that is going to go in the page with the history, we want to select this list view and also create a component that we call history. Now, as the last step, we're going to design some other dialogues that are going to appear when the user wants to change the daily target or when he wants to change the reminders, and also when he wants to add a custom amount of water. So let's open the widget picker and search for the alert dialog widget. Let's go in the widget picker and let's search for alert dialog. And let's go to the title property and we start with the daily goal. So we change the text to be set daily goal. And let's also connect it to a text style. Now we want to add the content to this alert dialog. So we go to content and we select a text field. Let's click on the edit icon next to the text field. And here we can modify the design of it. Let's go on the decoration property and let's add a label text. And let's connect it to a style. Also, let's modify the design of the text field. Let's add a fill color and also a border. And we can also add an icon. Let's select the alert dialog and let's create a component. We go to the top of the details panel and let's click on the component button and let's rename it. But I still want to modify a little bit the design of it, so I'm going to select first the text field and I'm gonna search for the text property, the style of the text, and I'm gonna select another style. And also I want to add an action to confirm the amount that is selected. So I'm gonna go on actions and I'm gonna click on add. And I'm gonna replace the placeholder with a button. I'm gonna select the button and I'm gonna modify the color of it and also the text. Now let's create another alert dialog for setting the reminders. So let's repeat the same steps. Let's open the widget picker and search for alert dialog. And let's modify the title again. As a content, this time we select a drop-down menu. Let's click on the edit button next to the drop-down menu. And here we can modify its properties. For example, let's add some radius and also some decoration. Let's also add a fill color. And also here, let's add an action and let's replace it with a button. Let's match the design of the button that we created before. So we change the color and also the text. We also need to create a component with this alert dialog, so let's select it. Now let's create the last alert dialog that is going to appear when the user clicks on the plus button in the home screen. So this alert dialog is going to have a slider that the user can use to select a custom amount of water, and also a text widget that is going to show the amount of water that the user is selecting. So to achieve this, we create a new alert dialog widget, and again, let's modify the text. This time, since the content has multiple widgets inside, we need to create them outside of the alert dialog. So let's open the widget picker and search for a slider. We can customize the colors of the slider. And now let's also open a text widget. And let's write a number. And let's also modify the text style. Let's change the sizing of this text to be auto. And now let's take this text and the slider and we group them. And let's put them in a column. And we can adjust the spacing. And also adjust the sizing. Now we select this group and we create a component with it. Now we go back to the alert dialog and we go in the content and we go in the components and we select the component that we just created. And now it's going to appear as the content of the slider of the alert dialog. Now also here we want to add a button to confirm. So we select the alert dialog and from the details panel we add action and we replace the placeholder with a button. Let's select the button and let's make the design match the other buttons. Nice, now we have everything we need for our design. One last thing, I'm gonna just check if everything is responsive. So to do it, I just quickly select the screen and resize them. This one is correct. This one is also fine. I'll do the same also for the components that I created for the other two screens. This one is responsive. And also this one. Now that we finished the design part, stay tuned because soon we're going to release also part 2 of this tutorial where we're going to show you how to use logic to make this app work. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial and I'll see you at the next one.